a letter from Srila Prabhupada showing how Prabhupada actually, after 3 years starting this movement, was already facing the problems of devotees leaving, of course. Even in his movement, Gaudiya Math, Prabhupada said, so many came and so many left. But I just stayed and listened. And because I was good in listening, then I'm also good in preaching. So this process of listening and preaching has to go on simultaneously all the time. There's never a point that it can stop. However advanced one is, or however, this is actually a problem for all the devotees. They face the problem that you start to think you know so much. And you know a lot, you heard a lot. But one starts to ignore the level of one's own realizations. And maybe the returning material desires not yet purified. All this together is a constant struggle. Because as long as we are in this body, we have to face all the time the results of our actions, reactions, and even by chanting, they are vastly minimized, practically eradicated. But again, it depends on the purity of the chanting. Nothing is automatic. Automatic can be used that word only when you follow purely, then automatically there will be result. But purity is not automatic. Purity is something we struggle for, and we try, and it's a constant battle of attack and retreat and finding right situations, how to face Maya. And therefore devotees always, Prabhupada said, personalists or impersonalists, means actually the authorized impersonalists, the Brahmavadis, those who strive for Brahman in an authorized way. Prabhupada said they are both, calling out annoyed, oh no, this Maya again. So Maya is for everybody, Maya is all the time around. And obviously Prabhupada, you can see by enthusiastically starting this movement, seeing actually results coming up which he didn't even expect. Prabhupada said, how you'll find it in his prayers on the boat of Javaduta, how will these people even, be able to understand what I have to say? Prabhupada said, as soon I come in the West, and I just mentioned the four regulative principles, they will tell me, Swamiji, very nice, but please go home again. Prabhupada said like this, very nice, but please go home. Just by mentioning the four regulative principles. What to speak of, the whole sophisticated Krishna conscious philosophy. So Prabhupada himself was doubting that these people will ever understand or be able to follow. But he was encouraged by the initial results. So he was very hopeful, as he used the word in his letters always, I'm very hopeful. And he was enthusiastic in all kinds of ways. He was enthusiastic, his disciples, to get them married, because he saw that this is proportionally to the level of their material desires. It's not like he thought we are all devotees coming to Krishna consciousness. But we are devotees, and he considers us being sent by Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. So he treated devotees respectfully on these grounds. You are sent to me by Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and as he writes, I will try to take care of you to the best of my ability. It's a very humble statement. So Prabhupada was optimistic, but he saw that there is a certain level of, especially this mixing of sexes, which is in the West so outrageous, comparatively spoken, to Vedic culture. It's like already in the educational field, you have it all mixed up. There's no even idea of brahmacharya or something, or celibacy, or anything of this. As a matter of fact, it's considered harmful. So it's madness, it's just completely mixed up, and it's addictive. We know how difficult it is to keep sannyas or brahmacharya in the Western world, living in this Western body, because the presence of this female energy is so addictive. It's actually not that personal. It's not like, you are looking for some personal exchange, No, it's just that female energy has to be around all the time. As you have noticed, when a woman comes into a male association, then all the men start to change and they act differently. Usually they speak more, they choose the words more carefully, and they start to compete with each other, yes, and try to impress the female. Yeah. So, and as soon as the female is gone, then the male usually are just starting to speak some rough words again, and they don't care, and they walk around naked and, in underwear and filthy, and usually Shudra men are like this, they don't care. Actually, the men is the same, the men is the same. Prabhupada gives an example, when women are amongst each other, they are not concerned about being naked or whatever, it's just, doesn't, understand, they are, very specifically oriented sexually. It doesn't agitate them being with another woman. It's just like, well, you have your body, I have my body. And they check the bodies out. Yeah, you have a good fat place like this, very nice. And yes, that's okay. They can appreciate that. They can see that. Women are extremely bodily conscious. They know exactly the shape, and the sink, and they know. But there's nothing special to them about that. But when a man shows up, then all the women start to change again. They start to compete and impress and watch each other, which one makes any move, on each single man. And they have a very, very fine understanding for that. Men don't understand anything what's going on. Of course, then there are countries like, I say sorry, in some villages, in Texas, in some countryside girls, they also go in a bar, they act almost like men. And then they like some boy, two girls, and then they fight over him. In a bar, like men. They just beat each other, especially the black-bodied women are just beating each other, pulling on the hair. This is the weaponry of the females, pulling on hair and scratching with fingernails, So this is what they do. So, and the men enjoy it. They sit there in the beer and right, hooray, doing and fighting over a man. For them it's like entertainment. So this is Shudra. This is all Shudra. So Prabhupada saw this mentality in us. And he saw the best way to regulate it first to get people just married. Otherwise, he said it will become a laughing stock of society. People will think it's just another version of a bunch of hippies living together and chanting happily, that's okay, but so Prabhupada to put it in some kind of frame which can represent. So he was very enthusiastic, especially when husband and wife was preaching. That was around the beginning of 1970. But 1 year later, he already experienced his defeats. You find the letters being filled up with, with urging Matajis to return to their husbands. This is, for me, of course, these things are very personal because I knew these devotees. Right? This is a letter to Shivananda. Actually, to the wife of Shivananda. I didn't know he had a wife. I saw Shivananda already. He wasn't white, but I saw him coming. He was one of the first preachers in Germany. He was one of the first devotees I met. And he was an extremely attractive person. He was certainly not a German. And he didn't look American much either. He was very, very kind and very refined in his expressions, And for a sentimental new bhakta, was most attractive. We have to be aware whenever new bhaktas come, they are without exception, if they are not some reuniting Mayavadis, they are very sentimental. And sentimentality still carries some kind of trace of personalism, like Sahaja. Bhaktisiddhanta said Sahaja is still a little bit better, as even they also do their offenses, but still a bit better as Mayavadi, because they already have some concept, Krishna and person and me, and it's all somewhat personal, but of course it's all based on sensual perception, it's sentimental. So practically everybody joining this movement is on that level, sentimental. He wants personal attention, he wants to be, he wants that we take part in the interest in his life, He's not going to be satisfied with just some sadhana machinery, just come in, line up, wake up, shake the beats. yeah, and then go out, well, let's get in the army, It's not like the army officers walk around and ask you, so how was your mother and how was your father? Of course, they have such a profiles also, but that's only for practical purposes. You have to fulfill a function, yeah. In the ultimate sense, it is like that, yes. We all have to fulfill some function within Srila Prabhupada's mission, but when somebody is joining, you cannot expect with understanding when he comes in the door. He is fully egocentric, self-absorbed in his own concept what he is. Everybody like that. So you have to accept that, not accept, but tolerate that, and draw from that. You have to see already what the level, like everybody coming is to some degree materially frustrated, otherwise he wouldn't come. So you can draw from that. It's like first the negative part. So yes, this material world is illusory, yeah, and everybody dies, yeah. And they're all crazy, yeah. That's usually how it starts. That's actually a requirement. If somebody is optimistic about this material world and sees Krishna consciousness like some kind of exotic spice to add to his own preparations, then he will never join. We don't want people like this. To use Krishna as some kind of decoration material for their own life. They are not interested. This is actually not needed. Now, of course, they can come around and they can take part, but this is not serious. They will always try to adjust Krishna to them, not adjust themselves to Krishna. But when you find a person who is already so thoroughly materially frustrated, meaning even from previous lifetimes, then there is some potential actually. He could advance in a positive way by being more and more engaged in Krishna consciousness. So nevertheless, Prabhupada can see how Prabhupada was concerned. Like this God-brother of mine, Shivananda, very, very nice devotee, very much preaching inspired. Can you imagine? He came to West Berlin, which was in the middle of East Germany. Very strange half town in the middle of East Germany, West Berlin. So he came there, and he was one of the first one who wanted to preach also in the East Berlin. But you couldn't go to East Berlin, especially not with the American passport. But he thought, somehow or other, that's a story I heard, I don't know, I cannot give 100% guarantee it's true, but very, very possible they did things like this those days. He bought himself an American officer uniform in some second-hand military shop, dressed himself as a military officer, and walked through the East German border in Berlin to East Berlin to preach. I mean, it couldn't be more dangerous to do such a thing. If discovered, he will be prosecuted from both sides. First of all, he is imitating American army. I mean, he could get America in war like this, It's so dangerous. No, he wanted to preach, So he put this military uniform, and he walks through there, and all the East German soldiers were like, okay, American officer coming, okay, and he just walked through. And on the other side, of course, he took the uniform off, and then he had his extra dress, and then he was going around preaching. And he put the uniform in the evening and went back again. That's the story I heard. And it's outrageous to do such a thing. Devotees are not afraid of anything. But he himself was a very, very calm, very kind person, and I found it confirmed in Prabhupada's letters. I heard from Shivananda that this is written to his wife. Yeah? I heard from Srila that you have left him without this knowledge. This is not very good. When he wrote me twice, my wife has left me and there is no trace, then I advised him that instead of marrying her, maybe better to prepare for sannyas. That was Prabhupada's often response. Any woman quitting on some husband, very often that husband got a sannyas invitation from Prabhupada. So far my knowledge is concerned, I consider Shivananda as one of my foremost disciples. I always remember his smiling face, and when I was in Hamburg, he was my constant companion and my personal attendant also. So I cannot forget Shivananda's good behavior and gentle nature. I do not know why you disagreed with such a nice husband. If you take my advice, then you will immediately return to your husband and live there peacefully. You are a qualified girl. You can do extensive service for Krishna. I require your service in the matter of translating work. So I advise you to engage yourself fully in your good quality occupation and be advanced in Krishna consciousness. So, and then he's preaching to her, that she couldn't expect in ISKCON society to be everybody perfect. This was already then coming up. Devotees read Prabhupada's books, they see devotees preaching, but they also, of course, could see, that what these devotees sometimes were capable to do. So they couldn't put it together, What kind of movement is this? It's full of these loonies and people do crazy things, and then you're discouraged, and then they walked out. So Prabhupada was going, don't expect anything like this. If it is not expected that every one of our members should be immediately to the standard qualification. The best thing is for you to set an example by your personal behavior and try to reform others in this way. Not just stay negative. That's what Prabhupada recommends. That doesn't mean we should go along with that madness. No. We have our right to say, okay, I'm not going to be part of this madness, I act like this. And sometimes the madmen get in majority and they will criticize you that you are acting differently. You should be degraded like us. I experienced such a circumstance. Well, that's the only thing you can do is just going bye-bye. He left us. He abandoned the movement. What do you mean movement? Of this? This is not a movement. It's like, you enter a temple full of drunkards. And they go, welcome, Haribol, Haribol. And they wave the bottles and they go, Haribol. And you go, and you said, no, I'm not going to drink. Why drink? We can chant and drink. Oh, we are chanting and drinking. Well, if you have a majority like this, you go, oh, sorry. You have to be loyal to the movement. Get your bottle. And in situations like this, then you can just move on with no regret, because this is not the movement. Okay. And let's hope these situations you will not be facing them. I did face them, unfortunately. So, in this way, Prabhupada was struggling already 3 years after founding this movement to, keep devotees around. There's two kinds of preaching, to karmis and to devotees. It's quite different, actually. You preach to karmis, you have to stay basic, informative, and very detached. When you preach to devotees, things get more personal and more, because there are not so many devotees. So if some devotee starts to fall in Maya, immediately makes an impact on the other devotees, one way or another. They will be affected. So therefore we are carrying a responsibility not just for us, but actually for others too. It's not like the movement will collapse when we leave. It always goes on somehow. But devotees will be hurt. Every time a devotee falls down, devotees feel hurt. They will not even tell you that, but they feel like that. So the more advanced devotee falling down, the more hurting it is. The number of people who are hurt is bigger. So this is a letter to a godbrother of mine who obviously left the movement for some time already. I don't know how people managed in 3 years in Krishna consciousness. They already left and came back again. And must have been pretty colorful, So Prabhupada is actually, this is really beautiful. Prabhupada never forgot any devotee. He never forgot any service that devotee did. So you can see how he actually, he is not even concerned what that devotee did. I don't know the details of this. I wasn't in America. This is an American devotee. But very well known name. I remember that name. So Prabhupada writes to him, I welcome you for you coming back to our society. Obviously, he took some vacation, which usually meant some girlfriend, some dope, some drug, sex and rock and roll. That was the culture, right? You took a little vacation and had a little taste of it again. So I welcome you for you coming back to our society, and you are feeling very nicely the association of devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami has described that devotional service can be advanced by 6 processes. Perhaps you know them. They are as follows: enthusiasm, patience, conviction, following the regulative principles, being honest in one's profession, and in the association of devotees. So this is Krishna conscious society, especially meant for giving people the opportunity to associate with devotees. Devotees means who are following the regulative principles. One cannot be independent and at the same time become a devotee, because all devotional activities are based on surrender. So in the association of devotees we learn this important item, how to surrender. But if we keep our independence and try to become a devotee, that is not possible. You are right to say that you cannot feel any taste for temple life or deity worship. This means you are keeping the same temperament you entertained before leaving our society. Our process is to accept both the lines of Bhagavad Marga and Pancharatriki Marga. Perhaps you must have seen the picture of the Gaudiya mission. On one side there is a Bhagavad book, and on the other side a picture of Lakshmi Narayana for deity worship. You cannot make any progress in devotional service unless simultaneously you follow both the lines. Just as the tracks of a railroad line, both must be there. Similarly, temple worship is essential for purifying us from the material contamination, and without being purified we cannot glorify the Lord. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is completely pure and we cannot approach Krishna without being purified. So as you say that you do not feel very much encouraged in deity worship and temple life, I see that your disease is still continuing. Under the circumstances, simple academic career will not help you. If you want to live with us, you must accept temple life, namely cleanly shaved head, observing the regulative principles, decorating the body with tilak, etc. You know all these things. So far your editorial work, he was actually working very much around in BDT. So far your editorial work is concerned, I welcome your good service, but if you do not follow temple life and deity worship, it will set a bad example. When I was there in New York last time, I saw that the tendency was there in the press members not to follow the principles. So I said, better to stop the press. Since the Advaita and others are attending the temple worship. Similarly, you must also do the same and chant at least 16 rounds, etc. I am so glad to learn that you are eager to preach, but we should know that if we cannot preach, we cannot preach without being solid in our standing as a devotee. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Apane Achari Prabhu Shikhai. This means that Lord Chaitanya wanted that one should preach by behaving himself exactly like he preaches. So our Krishna consciousness movement preaching depends on personal behavior. If you want to preach the gospel of Lord Jesus Christ on the principle of Bhagavad Gita, you will find so many differences. That's obvious that this devotee was kind of, so many devotees those days were Christian inspired. So they thought, I will have to preach to the Christians so they become better Christians on the basis of Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is not so much impressed. Those who are following Jesus Christ, let them follow strictly to the principles of the Bible. Thou shalt not kill is now being misinterpreted by the Christian priests. Now they say, thou shalt not murder. This means trying to save themselves from the crime of animal killing. So you cannot teach such unscrupulous followers the message of Bhagavad Gita. If you want to preach Bible, you can tell them why there will be misinterpretation. In New York, there is a big press that prints Watchtower. This is the witness Jehovah.
That prints Watchtower?
Watchtower. This is the only and main publication of the witness Jehovah. Yeah.
Is that only
main publication.
Main publication. Oh.
It's a kind of magazine.
Oh, yeah.
They are forcefully criticizing Christian behavior. They actually split from the Christians on the basis of deviations. I read that one Christian priest allowed a marriage between two men, homosex. So these things are going on. So your proposal for preaching the gospel on the basis of Bhagavad Gita will not be successful. If you want to do that, I cannot check you, but I cannot allow you to do such things from within our society. You have to understand our philosophy perfectly, follow the regulative principles, and then, in fact, you can edit our books and papers. When I shall go to Mayapur, then upon hearing from you of my proposal as mentioned above, I shall arrange for you coming to India. First of all, you have to decide yourself whether you are prepared to surrender to our principles. But if you keep your independence, either in Mayapur or New York, your position is the same. To associate with me, you are always welcome, but not with your independence. That will not help me or you. You can see how Prabhupada was simultaneously appreciative and welcoming the devotee back, but not indiscriminately. He put these conditions clear. In other words, you come in association of devotees, surrender. Surrender means you have to serve the needs. You know, what is needed to be done, you know, what is the instruction of spiritual master, in cooperation with devotees, which is not easy always. You know, somebody has to set the priorities. There are so many things we could do, but there are other things which needed to be done. So the more and more one molds one's life according to the needs, what is needed to be done in a particular circumstance to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, and puts one's own preferences aside, even in the name of preaching, the more one makes actually spiritual progress. So this is a principle which is nowadays, of course, highly violated. Wherever I travel around, I see just highly violated. People are not ready to actually surrender to much anything. They pick up their Krishna conscious idea, they interpret it in their own way, they do things even without consulting spiritual master. Poor spiritual masters nowadays. They have a hard time even to follow what their disciples are doing, what to speak of, tell them what to do. You know, Prabhupada had the same problem. He gave somebody instruction, he changed it next week. Prabhupada said, but what is he doing? You hear it in the letters all the time. I told him to be in Delhi. Now he is in New York. What is he doing? Why did he left his post? How can I manage this movement? You see? That trouble Prabhupada already had all the time. Because of this restlessness, of this passion, and all these material desires which are sometimes camouflaged in the form of Krishna consciousness, you know, and all these secondary agendas which devotees carry around. Very difficult to get something done. But in the times I joined still, the mood was very, very dynamic because devotees were actually ready to give up. There was no concern for personal security, for personal safety, for personal economical development, nothing. For brahmachari anyway, and even grihasthas very often acted in a way that they just simply surrendered. You know, we saw even in Sweden how grihastha families joined, they were living in some caravan in the winter. You know, whole family in a caravan. You know, just to be able to be close to the temple and serve the mission. Then of course things improved. Unfortunately, the more things improved, the more trouble arrived.